I was gonna say when your kids are involved, I think that it makes sense that you're not gonna be completely rational when you talk about your kids. And it's funny, man. There was a Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew on CNN and Headline News and all that. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, he did a special about basically how the courts are set up to rape billions of dollars from just all the American people by destroying families. When you have a divorce, you have a custody issue, child support. Everybody's getting money in this system, except the people that need it. And then as a
Yeah,
result, not only are the families being raped financially, but they're also being traumatized. You talk about what your
this is
kids go
traumatizing.
through, and I mean
Yeah.
this is this is serious stuff. And I think
Exactly.
that if a man loves his kids, why would you keep a man who loves his kids away from his children? I mean, it's crazy. And then the other thing that's interesting to me too, man, is like the double standard of of that you can't go and tell the mother of the child or the custodial parent, you can't tell them who they can have around. Like you can't say, I don't approve of your boyfriend. I don't want your
Right.
boyfriend around my kids. But you get a girlfriend, whatever, you doing something that they don't approve of. Somebody
Oh,
suddenly
nah.
can act like it's an emergency. Well, I didn't let him go see his father because I didn't like his
Yeah.
girlfriend. What the
Right.
hell is that? That's crazy to me. It seems
Hmm.
like a lot of guys are going through exactly what you're going through. I think one of the
Oh, yeah.
differences is that they don't have the money to go fight in court. They don't know what to do. Um, you
Right.
know,
But you know what? I didn't even get a lawyer for this. If
really.
you don't have the money, you got to get a paralegal, man. A paralegal will handle a lot of things. So, what's my man's company's name? Why don't you get the dogs out? We're doing this. Doesn't make sense. What's the dog's name? What's the my child says daddy. Yeah, I called my child says daddy. My child says daddy, and the hip hop motivator Kenyatta, the guy that does the that show with me, he actually connected me with him because I was like, every time I had an issue, or rather, when we moved to LA, I was calling lawyers in LA to handle this. The first thing they would say is $25,000 retainer. So I ended up firing about three people before I hired them. You know what I mean? And they would actually argue with me about it. I'd be like, seriously, just to move a court, just to move the the case number over to the West Coast and just get in front of a judge and do an action for me to just get simple visitation needs to be a $25,000 retainer.
And this was just to try to see your kids.
Yeah.
Just to,
So
so
I did
so
it.
so just to see your children, your God-given right to see your children. They're saying you got to put up 25K to
That's what
make
the
it
lawyer
happen.
said.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but so instead I called, that place with and I got a paralegal. I just did it myself. It costs way less than that. And you could do it yourself, but it's so frustrating because there's so many things you got to fill out. And sometimes the people aren't very nice at the register. The judges and everybody were kind of cool, but it's a lengthy, patient process. And when you're already mad about not seeing your child or being accused of something you didn't do, on a human emotional level, it can become very frustrating and it could also cause some negative projection. Pause. You know what I'm saying? But it's understandable. You know what I
Well,
mean?
well, when a
And
man.
you can't even bring puppies in court, so I didn't have any emotional support. Crazy.
Well, man, I think that when you take away a man's family, you take away his children, especially you kind of cut into his reason for existing. A
Yeah.
lot of men we exist, we go out, we work hard, and we become something so that we can do things and protect the people we love. So when you take that away from a man, I think you run into very dangerous territory because when somebody gets to the point where they have no reason to live anymore, that's when you have these crazy things happen. You have these murders, suicides,
Listen,
and all this other crazy stuff.
let me tell you. Let me tell you. The reason why I said that in front of the police was to protect me from myself. That's why I would said it's good that he has order of protection, so I'm just not going to be dumb. But if I run into him, I'm gonna need a fair one. You know what I mean? I'm not going to abuse him. He could probably beat me. He's supposed to be security. But for my manhood, I just wanted that. I needed that one on one. You know what I mean? And then what I did was when I went home that night, I had to go to sleep. I'm telling you, remember, I quit smoking and everything because I didn't want to think about what could be going on. Like, I'm not all right with a man in the house with my daughters. I don't know what kind of problems that man has. And if he does touch my daughter, I am going to jail. It's a guarantee. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna here's the 25. Take it. Take me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't be able to live with myself letting a man hurt my daughters. It could never happen. So even though whether it would or not, the thought of that, I didn't want to think about it. So I couldn't even smoke. I went to sleep. I couldn't even get out of that dark place I was in because the things I was thinking were not good. But then I thought about it. I was like, there's always a test that happens because there's so many good things happening right now. That must be the test. The test is always something that doesn't usually happen. And that was something that didn't usually happen. And a lot of things are going on. So I said, oh, that must have been the test. So I'm going to just go to bed and do what I need to do legally. But if I was a different kind of person, if I didn't have the right kind of people around me, if I had my sneakers on instead of my flip flops, in that moment, I might have jeopardized everything and every message that I've ever worked for. And then other people be like, damn, just a dumb nigga. And that's what that would have been. And I'd be like, damn, why would she want to bring me to be that dumb nigga in front of so many people, in front of my children? I take pride in being a dad. I take pride in protecting my children. So all of this is me not even like the reason why I wasn't going through all of this before for all these years I've been sustaining this abuse is because I was trying to protect my children. Because at the end of the day, that's my job as a father. But now she's going too far by putting niggas in the house and all that. So I'm gonna have to bang it out real quick, meaning legally, and then everything will be all right. I went through this with books, and it was worth it. You see my child now. That's from me being able to raise him, from him day-to-day contact and guidance, not visitation. You can't raise a person while you visiting him. This is what happens when you see your child every other weekend. He feels uncomfortable the first day he sees you because he has to get used to you. You feel uncomfortable because, it's just awkward. I went through this. And then by the time y'all get cool, they leave again. There's no consistent love. And I'm not trying to have that with my daughters on any level because you know what happens when a girl's looking for attention. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, well, and another thing that I think you brought up that's real important. I mean, people might think you were being overzealous when you talk about the dangers of having a strange man in the house with your daughter. But I knew a guy who was a cop, and he worked in the crimes against children unit where he would cover molestation, abuse, rape, all of that. He said that it was like reading out of a book. He said I can't count the number of times that there was a woman who was dating a man who she thought was a nice guy, and while she
Mhm.
was at work, he was fucking her child. He was
Oh my
beating her
God.
child. And I'm not saying this about your daughter. I'm not trying to put
No,
that
I
in
know
y'all.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
but it's real. I mean, those threats
think
are
of
very, very real.
you think worst case scenario, and like whenever I always think best and worst, and there's a chance of either or. But I'm not gonna do that with my kids. Business, I could do that. But with my kids, there is no options. Option A, safe. No men around my daughters until they grown, and they can make their own decisions. But I'm not having. You see, my daughters are beautiful. I will have to kill a nigga twice. I will kill this nigga. I will wake his ass up and kill this nigga again if he fucks with my daughter. And that's not positive. You know what I'm saying? That's not the best message. But this is the way you feel about your kids.
Well, I don't even know if I mean, somebody would say it's not a positive message, but what's more positive than the father protecting his child? I mean, because we have so
Hey,
many complaints from so many black women that say black men don't protect us, they won't stand up for us, they don't care. Well, I mean, you're doing what a father does, and sometimes as a man, you have to fight other men to protect the people you care about. And so I don't think there's anything negative about what you said. I mean, if at worst, people might complain about the way you said it or something like that, but even that I think is it makes sense. Again, I always compare you a lot. People always ask me, they say, so what is it, that you appreciate about what Dame has to say? And I said, you actually remind me a lot of my dad. My dad has that same approach to a lot of things, or he always did when he was younger. And one thing I can say about my father is, though, even though he was not a perfect man, and he was rough. I mean, he was real tough on me. I never ever ever felt unsafe. I never ever felt that he wasn't gonna come through.
right,
In fact, he was a cop, and he talks about when he went to his first job on the force, and they didn't have any black people on the force. And then the guy flat out told him in the interview, he said, "Look, you're not gonna get hired because we don't hire black people." He said, "Look, I got a wife and kids to feed, so we're gonna make this happen. I will get this job." And he got the job, because he knew he did what he had to do, and I think that is something we have to appreciate without getting caught up in, oh, well, I didn't like the way he said it or whatever, because the fact is
right.
that you have some real just uncomfortable realities in the world, and sometimes you have to use uncomfortable approaches to deal with uncomfortable realities. So, you're not gonna get much of a fight with me on that. So let me ask you this, man. So, in terms of just speaking on the issue of fatherhood, in terms of what you see from other guys that are going through the same sorts of things, what have you sort of seen in terms of black men, just with the divided black family and the struggle of black men really being with their kids? What have you observed, and what are your thoughts on that? What advice do you give to guys that are going through similar kinds of battles?
Well, what I want to say is I feel like the generation before me, was that generation of bum ass niggas that didn't take care of their kid, where there was always the single mom or the grandmother raising their child. But I honestly believe that because of the fact, like guys like me and other guys like Swiss or T.I. or Run DMC, like Reverend Run, it's become cool to be a father and to take care of your child. And I'm seeing that, like for me, if I see a dude with a kid that don't take care of his kids, he's not my friend no more. I'm not fucking with him, And I think that's the way a lot of people have become. Now, as it relates to that fight, it's funny because most of my friends, I hate, and it's not a disrespectful thing, but they don't almost have as much to lose or as much for a woman to go try to get as I do. So a lot of this becomes leverage for the bigger picture. Like, all these years that I've been supposedly broke, I've still been responsible for paying $10,000 to $15,000 a month, plus all expenses for my children, which I don't mind, But the minute that you don't cut a check, a woman might want more. So the women that a lot of my friends deal with, they're like happy when they see their kids. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when they see the father want to be in the kid's life. It's very rare that, every time I see this happen, it's usually with a kid with some money, or it's usually a dude that the woman is still in love with the man. You know what I'm saying? And they leverage the kids like you can't see him unless you give him money. Like, for example, I wouldn't be allowed to see Tallulah. Like, Rachel would call me. The way I would see Tallulah is I would have to meet her at Whole Foods, spend $400, give my daughter a hug and a kiss, and that was my visitation for the day. You understand what I'm saying? But I don't think that if my pockets were the way they were, I don't think that would be the issue. I don't think they would be so mad. I just think they're mad because they may still be wanting to be in my life, and I'm not doing bad like everyone wanted me to be doing. And I didn't have to sacrifice the man that I am to be successful. And that was the man that most of those women fell in love with. So now that they see and I'm all right, they want to get back with me, but I'm not all right because they didn't ride out. You know what I mean? And again, your question was about the friends, but I think, I don't know, man. It's a hard advice to give. It's hard advice to give because all I can say is be patient. Go to court. If you got to fill it out, fill it out. And don't expect it to happen overnight. That's the one thing. It doesn't happen overnight. Patience is key in this situation. And yes, it's normal to be upset when you don't see your children or you get accused of something. That's normal. That's human. But it's not the end of the world. Tomorrow happens a lot faster, but it feels like forever in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. So do you ever feel like it's almost like a pay to play kind of situation where, if you think about it, if you are a father paying child support, and you can't make the payments, you can go to jail. And then some people will even say that you don't deserve the right to see your kids because you can't pay. And
Well,
it,
it's not that you can't pay. You have to modify.
mm,
So what a man won't do is the specifics. So, for example, when Rachel was spent that 300 grand, and I called Cindy and I was like, listen, she spent the money. I'm not going to have as much to give you for a little while. She agreed with it. But then she tricked me and brought me back to court. And they were like, you can't do that. You got to go to court. And they have to acknowledge that. I didn't know that. And then Rachel goes and spends, just take it from her. I mean, that's the most logical thing. And then Rachel blows the child support or decides to spend it. And I'm thinking because there's a court order that she's going to adhere to it. And I get dragged. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It doesn't add up.
is that the dog?
Yeah, the dog's squeaking. I'm like, just take the toy, man. It doesn't add up. The table. How did he take? I did not. The table's anyway. So, what was I talking about? She just got me off my train of thought. What was he talking about?
You're talking about spending the child support stuff like that. Rachel spends.
You just don't know these things. Like, honestly, when you walk into the court, they really be expecting you to know. Like, they'll be like, well, was it an F-119? And I'll be like, what's the F-119? You don't know what an F-119? It's a hearing. And I'm like, was I supposed to know that? I'm not in here every day. So, I got surrounded in the place, because it was a mad line. The line was crazy long. I stood in the line for an hour. We got up there, my name wasn't filled. Homeboy tried to tell me to go to the back of the line and wait another hour just to put my name on it. I was like, hell to the nah. And you got to get me your supervisor. And they surrounded me, but I spoke to the supervisor and they was like, yeah, you're right. And they did it because I was like, hey, nothing in here that says if I don't have my name on there, I'm gonna have to stand on the line for an hour and a half. I mean, that's the kind of shit that'll make somebody just go home. You know what I'm saying? And be like, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go do it my way. So it's a lot of testing that situation and shit. And there's a lot of not knowing what's going on that they expect you to know for some reason. It's the same thing with taxes. They'd be like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Like, we don't give a fuck. You going to jail or you got to pay that tax. It's like the Lord expects you to know the law. So my thing is go know the law. Don't think because a woman tells you something that you're going to get like Rachel tells me I can't see my kids because I smoke weed. You cannot say that. She'll say, like you said, you can't see your kid because you got a woman in the house or whatever's going on. You cannot do that, but you have to go enforce it. But the problem is to enforce it sometimes takes 30 days. So you might be mad in the moment, go down there and do it, but in 30 days you're not mad no more because you done seen the kid and whatever happened, and you don't feel like it. So then you don't. It's a lot of moving parts and a lot of patience. So my advice is patience. Go get a paralegal instead of a lawyer. Maybe have a lawyer check shit out. You know what I'm saying? But once you get down to that, but until you need it, paralegal and patience. And
Okay.
patience.
Okay.
Patience.
Well, you know what, man? We've talked for a while, and I know your time is short and all that stuff.